Hey everybody, welcome into Dynasty Mode, the unofficial EA Sports College Football Game podcast. My name is Arky Shea. That is Demetri
It's
Ravanos.
me.
Demetri, say hello to everybody. It's been a minute.
It has been. Oh, hi, everybody.
We hope you had a merry whatever you celebrate and continue to celebrate whatever year you're going to call this.
Right.
Some call it 2023. I'm calling it whatever I want to that day. I don't really care what it gets called.
I call it the year of our Lord 2023.
Oh, well, thanks, Dabo.
Mhm.
I didn't think I'd ever want to stop counting years as much as I have the last couple of years.
Because
The year doesn't mean anything to me. I'm fine. It's just January.
is it because you are getting older, or is it and thus feel the creeping march of death, or is it because of some sort of weird religious reason I don't know about?
Oh no, I have a cult going.
Oh, okay.
That we don't recognize calendars.
Good for you.
I keep it kind of quiet, but thanks for bringing it up.
Sure.
And I guess I didn't have to say it either. It's the anti-Madden cult. We don't recognize calendars or gameplay.
Wow.
For current iterations of Madden, we go back and we live the 2005 days, which weren't even with the EA. It was all ESPN stuff. So
okay, so I've got to make a bit of an admission here. The son downloaded Madden for the PS5, and
yeah,
I don't love it because those are not my video game football teams.
Mm-hmm.
But the RPO is a lot easier to pick up than I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I should note that while I have gotten to the point where I can beat my son in FIFA, I have not come within 3 touchdowns of him yet on Madden.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
Just a progress update for everybody.
Yeah, listen, how about we make 2023 the year of beating your son?
Yeah. That's what I called 2022 for different reasons.
I think we're getting to the same spot. You know what
I
mean?
You're cool. You get it.
Yeah, we're cool. Hey, before we get to today's episode, which is all about integrating in the new video game when it comes out, whatever decade they decide to put it out at this point, the transfer portal, as well as opt-outs for bowl games, which should look like what we think it could look like. Demetri, can I give you a piece of good news that I've been waiting so anxiously to give to you?
Yes, please.
All right. I'm going to come off screen for just a moment. Here we go. Oh, look at that bad boy.
Look at that.
Look at that bad boy. If you cannot see because you're the audio only, you're a fool for not getting on the YouTube and searching for Dynasty Mode. But I'm showing Demetri Ravanos the fact that for Christmas, I got myself a PS5, baby.
Now, let me ask you this question. Because
by the way, if you will look, it is sealed. It is unopened. I haven't even gotten to it yet. Mainly because I'm waiting on one game, essentially, even though there's already a game on this.
But. Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. There is already a God of War on that machine.
God of War, which is all about FIFA, I think, as you were talking about.
That's correct. Do you have an affinity for those types of games?
No.
Okay.
Nope, I don't. I don't hate them. I don't have anything really against them. But I've played other types of games. BioShock. I don't know a lot about God of War, so whenever I do eventually get around to playing it, I don't know particularly what it is. I think it's like a role-playing game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no idea.
I don't either. It's what I'm guessing. So if I get into my skimpies and maybe I'm a maid in it, a French maid, that kind of role play, you know what I'm saying? Twist the mustache, curl it up a little bit. But I'm not sure if I'm going to like that game or not. It's apparently a very highly rated and reviewed game. But what happens is with the PS5, you kind of become, to be honest with you, if you wanted it recently or soon, like beggars couldn't really be choosers according to those who were trying to find it for me for Christmas. And I really appreciate Santa Claus finding it for me for Christmas this year. But yeah, this is so technically, here's the issue with me. That I don't know if it was able to see on the camera itself. It is discless. So it is.
That's what I have as well.
It is discless. I have not committed to not getting the physical copy still. Here's my guess before we get to it. I think the physical copy is still going to have like a code in it. Don't you think?
For
the video game, for the NCAA video game, not God of War. We'll deal with that in another podcast.
I would guess. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things in the comments where if you have experience with this, tell us, because it seems like it would, given where we are, right?
You mean like North Carolina and Alabama,
That's right.
or
Yes.
okay, yeah. So state-wise, yeah, it's jurisdiction.
Right.
You know, when they talk about region-locked devices, that's what they mean. Uh,
Yeah.
I would think, right? Like that's me justifying it. If I had to buy it twice, then for this one particular video game, I'm gonna be okay with it,
Yeah.
right? When it eventually comes out. But apparently was a sort of a beggars can't be choosers kind of situation, and I'm very very pleased with it. But you know what that means, Demetri? You and I, we can battle.
It's go time.
Yeah, it's go
Now
time once
what
they get to
is
the PlayStation Mega Store or whatever it's called.
now what is the game that you are waiting on? Is it NCAA or is it something else?
It's NCAA.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there was like something coming out soon
Well,
because
I remember I told you that I was considering getting it, but like the literal only game that I had sort of even been pawning for was the NCAA
yeah, I
game,
mean,
and I was like,
listen,
well, it's going to come out next summer, so maybe put it on the Christmas list for this year. And just before Christmas, NCAA love makers, EA Sports' college football video game lovers, not
that's
the
right.
NCAA game. We're like, yeah, no.
Yep.
How's that?
Yeah, that's boy, Jedi Survivor better be awesome because I need it to carry me through 18 months when it comes out in March.
Yeah, so or we can maybe I'll get FIFA and we'll battle each other.
Woo!
You can be Greece and I'll be my home country of
Ah,
USA. Come on now.
someone does not have FIFA. No, I can't be Greece.
Um, is it FIFA the only? Is FIFA not a? Is Greece not a member of FIFA?
No, Greece is a member of FIFA, but there is no World Cup specific game this year, so they've really limited what countries are available.
Oh, okay. I did not. Well, yeah, clearly I don't have it because I don't
Yeah,
have a PS5, right? Right. Come on now. Like,
sure.
why would I update all that on the old Xbox Series, whatever I got right now? Okay, so I'm cool. We'll be able to figure out a game together. Maybe, you know, I don't know. Does Bluey have a game that we could play?
I don't know. My kids are a little bit too old. Where is your son on? Oh shit, who's the other guy? Blippy, Bling
Blippi,
Blong.
yeah, he is in
That's
and
the one
out.
with the purple overalls, right?
Orange overalls, blue shirt, acid wash jeans.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
I think this is who I'm thinking of. I'm just not positive.
I think you're there.
Okay.
I think you're completely there. So maybe people in the comments below can tell us, hey, what kind of game that they like. Maybe we should invest in, and maybe we all find ourselves in some kind of
Oh,
pre-tournament.
there you go.
Maybe we end up all getting to Madden just to give EA even more money to go get that
Ugh.
NCAA game figured out.
No, thank you.
It would be great if it was just financial. Like, hey, we just need like 180 more bucks. Can you guys just help us get over the limit here? Like, we really just a skosh. Come on now.
Yeah, like EA, like this whole college football video game is just dependent on a Kickstarter.
Right. But it's been a very quiet Kickstarter. Like,
That's
man,
right. Yeah, you kick in $5, you get coasters.
I hope someone really buys an extra copy of like FIFA. Come on now, like it's not that much. Okay, so the college football video game, when it does come out, still technically summer 2024. It's going to feature a lot of additions and updates and a whole brand new look to the game itself, Demetri.
Right.
And they've already said before from interviews that we've read and things that we've talked about with people who know those inside the video game that this new video game will definitely have to have some element of the transfer portal inside the video game. Now, I started thinking about this, especially for this week when we came back for the podcast, because we've had a tremendous amount of transfer portal activity. But I also wanted to sort of incorporate that with the idea of bowl opt-outs, right? And how that might be able to affect your team and the game itself, because that's a whole brand new world from the last time we saw the college football video game too, Demetri.
It is. And one of the interesting things is how exactly do you deal with that, right? Because I think that the easy answer is you make it just like talking juniors into staying for their senior season, right? You allot so many recruiting points to get these kids to, stick around in the bowl game or stay out of the portal or whatever the case may be. However, wouldn't there be some sort of personality thing going on there? Wouldn't there be some sort of reputation thing with recruits that you don't value their futures as much as you value your record if you're constantly talking guys into playing in the Bahamas Bowl?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad you started with the Bahamas Bowl
Oh, it's the
because
first one.
that is always near and dear to my heart. Considering a fried chicken place sponsored it for the first few
That's
years,
right.
and for the first, I think, 3 or 4 years, the combined attendance was 74.
Was it? I believe it was year 2 of the Bahamas Bowl. Was that epic Memphis BYU brawl? Correct.
It may have been year 2 or 3. I can't remember which one it
Oh no,
was.
wait. I'm sorry. That was the Miami Beach Bowl. It was. I can't remember which.
No, I know Miami's been in one, but there was a brawl at the Bahamas Bowl, wasn't there not?
Ooh, was there? All right,
I think there have been multiple bowl fights over the last 7 or 8 years.
Well, of course. I mean, look, just 2 years ago, we had Tulsa and Mississippi State in the Liberty Bowl ready to throw down at one another.
Yeah, listen, that's the best part about bowl games now is that you literally just start punching people in the noggin. And that's the great thing, especially when other people are wearing the helmet. It's the smartest thing to do in college football is to punch another dude wearing a football helmet that's designed to absorb high impact.
Have we been together since? And it wasn't the Liberty Bowl; it was the Armed Forces Bowl that Tulsa and Mississippi State broke out into a fight in. Have we been together since Mike Leach passed away?
We have not. We absolutely have not.
I believe one of my favorite Mike Leach memories was people literally fighting in front of him and on television, him going, "Yeah, what are you going to do?"
Yeah, like at the end of that game, he's like giving an interview. And he's just like, "Hey, listen, this is the guys do what they do. You know what I mean?
Passions are high in these.
Well, I think he won the game, and he was just like, "Listen, let's just get out of here.
Right.
Let's some of us get out of here. I don't know. Let's they know where the locker room's at. What do you want me to do?
Yep.
Okay. I guess briefly since you mentioned it, and then we'll get back to that was heartbreaking.
It's sad.
It's really heartbreaking because you literally almost never see something like that happen in the middle of a season to an active coach for the most part.
I think I read that this is the first time it has happened in the SEC since the 50s and the first time it has happened in college football overall in around 20 years. Yeah, I mean, it's shocking and such a character too. And I sort of made the point that like there was good and bad with him in terms of personality, but like if you cannot look at college football and recognize scheme-wise, it is a better game because he was a part of it. Like you're a fool.
No, and I'll say this about Mike Leach's personality. I found it really enjoyable in general. I'll tell you the one thing, and this is not a Mike Leach fault. Okay, this is the media's fault.
Oh,
the media chose Mike Leach to ask him absurd questions,
sure,
all the time, just to try to get an absurd answer. But you never had to.
Right.
Mike Leach would answer anything that you asked him, but you never had to ask him, "Hey, which candy do you hate for Halloween?" Like that kind of stuff you never had to do. Like Mike Leach would just talk to you about anything and he'd have a great answer for it. So I never liked that it became a contrived thing that Mike Leach is crazy. Let's make him sound crazy.
Right.
Or let's make him sound off the wall and fun.
Remember, this is the guy that just volunteered one time to the media that he spent a whole day following a raccoon around to see where he would go.
Yeah, no one asked him. There was no raccoon track and talk in that press conference.
Yeah.
So, that's the only thing that I did not like is that how the media sort of tried to turn that guy into a bit of a sideshow because of that. And it became more so when he got to the SEC, to be honest. Like, it really ramped up.
Sure.
Really ramped up there. But Mike Leach was that naturally. And, I can't help but imagine that the fact that happened, those players were still able to go out and decide to do the game, and then to be able to perform against a really good team and eventually be able to get that win, and then to have to do, like, in the middle of all that, a memorial, a funeral, then a coaching search that you never sort of expected to happen. Like, it's just a really tough offseason for Mississippi State.
Probably, you hate to say it this way, but advantageous timing that the university doesn't have an athletic director right now. So you could just say, look, we're not even going down this road. Zach, what's the kid's name? Arnett is going to be the head coach. That's that. We're not going to, sell all the stuff that Mike did with this team to make it an attractive job. Like, we're not in the place to do that right now, emotionally or like literally. We don't have the infrastructure to do that right now.
Yeah. I don't. I couldn't even imagine. As if let's say I was a president of the university, or even a member of that university, or an athletic director, interim, or whatever at the time, to have to sort of get through all of that.
Right.
It's just, and to get back to Mike Leach, and then we can wrap it up and move back to the topic. That guy was, when we talk about they don't make dudes like in college football for the pros,
Right.
like he is literally like Vision 1. Like he is ground central zero for guys that just you don't see those guys anywhere else but college football. And it's part of the tapestry of what make the sport so great is someone like him could branch off from his coaching tree and, get off from Kentucky, help be able to sort of shoot that offense with Hal Mummy to make the air raid offense something. And then, we get a couple of decades or so, 3 decades of Mike Leach as the head man somewhere.
Genuinely sad that he never got a chance to face off with Jim Harbaugh and literally break his brain.
There could not be two more polar opposites as far as who wants to be in a press conference, discuss a press conference,
Right.
or even talk to another human being, for that matter, than Mike Leach and Jim Harbaugh. I'll tell you this quick. In my phone still is Mike Leach's cell phone number.
Give it a call. See if he answers.
Well,
Boo.
I'm not going to say that dark, but I'm going to say if there is a ghost tone.
That's right.
Like to the call, I'm going to be like, listen, Demetri, I'm going to call you back. I got something here.
So
like
this is actually a good place to sort of pivot back because where did Mike Leach usually find his quarterback? Transfer portal. I mean, transfer. This was pre-portal. But even still, like I do think there is going to be, remember you could build up your coach both in terms of play calling and as a recruiter. And I wonder if recruiting gets broken out even more in future editions of this game.
I think it would have to, right? I think that there really is no option for this game to sort of be along the realistic sides of it, then for it to have multiple sort of new iterations, because now we're talking name, image, and likeness as part of that too. And so now you're talking about what technically isn't within the regulations of paying players and inducing them to come financially. But we all know sort of some of the realities of this, which is what you sort of have to put, I think, in the video game, which is you allot phone minutes or points to sort of call players or to try to convince them of a certain topic, which, by the way, you couldn't even sell people in certain parts of your program and pick what you wanted to do in the last versions of the game. So that has to be something I would think that's highly considered to be able to come back. But also now I think, Demetri, I told you at one point, when it comes to like money in the video game itself, like when you're talking about budgets, like what's real, like it doesn't never necessarily feel real to me if like I have to commit $7.5 million points to be able to get 7 or 8 players or something for a year. But I do think that if you sort of tie it along with the fact that you reducing the amount of money means you can't get other players or offer them as much and they clearly won't be interested, I think you start to see some realities as far as the transfer portal and the main fund of NIL self and opt-outs as well.
Okay, so here is some tying that all together, because this will go into all of the different things you'll need to build your coach up in Dynasty mode. And I will tell people, I know I use FIFA as an example all the time, but if you look at the way you build your own star in FIFA, like, boy, there are pages and pages of shit to build up when you are creating your guys. So maybe we do have something that in depth in the next college football video game. I think that whether it is on the recruiting tree or it is its own tree, there is also, in addition to, having all the things like you get this many extra points when you hit the road for recruiting, you get this much of a boost when they come to your school. You'll also have to have some sort of toggling or skill set when it comes to dealing with collectives, right? Because this game is not going to have coaches rather, dealing directly with NIL, but is that possibly another area of recruiting you have to do where you have to go chase the bigger boosters for your school or people that are in the town that maybe don't have a concrete tie to the school that you could convince to come be the savior?
I'm trying to think if I want to answer that now because I have a good point. Let's do that now, and then I want to get back to the first part of this real quick.
Okay.
So I think if that is the route you want to go, and I think there's a way to do it if it's not just dealing with the collective. But since, as the coach, and if we're not going to have like an athletic director mode to be able to sort of handle things like that, technically as the coach, I think you should be able to, like when you used to be a player, you would get emails and stuff. You would get messages from people or letters from people saying, hey, man, really good game against Oklahoma. Keep doing it. Keep getting those chicks hot that are too. You know what I'm saying? Keep banging away, bro.
I remember those emails.
I sent you one yesterday.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
I think a fun way to sort of see that happen is if you start being incentivized, might be the more correct term. To say, hey, coach, we got a big game against Notre Dame coming up. Notre Dame, that's the place that I just cannot stand. Blah, blah, blah. If we beat Notre Dame, I'll put up another $100,000 to the collective or something like that.
Right.
So, like, that's technically, you're earning it as you go, but you're also dealing with the boosters to a degree. You're dealing with the collective, so to speak, and you're still trying to build up. Just like the more wins that you would get, the better your coaching rating kind of gets.
Right.
The more those wins that could be helping for the collective helps the collective as well as helps you too as a coach. And then maybe perhaps we start to see those align a little bit more. That way, if you need to keep players, recruit players, so on and so forth, that you're earning your way throughout the season as well as if you want to, but probably not going to see in the game, a bunch of simulated like $1,000 plate events.
Okay. I mean, look, I could see that being something you got to do.
The $1,000 plate dinners.
Yeah, I mean, like sim.
How you gonna put that in a game? Is that going to be fun for? I'm going to say fun. Is there enough incentive for EA to put that into a game? Like, is it that interesting enough to sort of
listen, Arky? Right now, to build up my superstar in FIFA, I've got to fly fans in for a game as part of winning a contest.
Okay, I didn't know that. So maybe,
yeah, I mean, like there's all sorts of like nonsense they throw in there. So I could see the $1,000 plate dinner. I also, along the lines of what exactly that recruiting, what would you call it? Roadmap, like hierarchy, whatever it is you build your skills up in. There's got to be something, and this goes to both the portal and opt-outs. There's got to be something about dealing with your own guys, right? Like college football is so different in terms of the autonomy that players have now that there does have to be some sort of, are you good selling the kids that don't know what it's like to be on campus? And are you good taking care of your own guys? Do they trust you? Do they, do X, Y, or Z for you? And that's where I think it would be interesting because I do wonder, what version of the portal are we going to see in this game? Are we going to see like, hey, the portal's open, after the last game and closes before the first game of the next season? Or are we going to see a realistic portal windows like we have right now? And if you do, would you have the ability to talk guys into staying through the bowl game?
So this is where I think we start to get into some fun aspects of possibly some of your between the end of the season going into the off season, but you still got that bowl game area.
Yeah.
So in sort of the last several games, like you've had players sort of say they want to declare for the draft or they want to transfer at the end of the year.
Right.
Right. And so you have to either convince them or try to convince them, or if they were a high enough draft pick, you just couldn't convince them. Like there's just no option to. I think you take away all of that as far as not being able to. Right. I think it should. Hey, he's a first round draft pick. That's great. I still want to try to see if he can come back for next year. And if I want to waste the points and or money, that's on me. But I think if you start with the opt out part, like it's the end of the regular season, you're getting ready for the bowl, a screen comes up, transfer portal people, opt out people. And that's where I think you start figuring out, why are you opting out? You're opting out because you want to transfer, or you're opting out because you want to get ready for the draft? Give me sort of the reason why, right? You could come up with 15 reasons easily why, 10 or 15 reasons, and they can rotate amongst the guys. It's not going to be the
Right.
biggest deal. And then that's when you start getting the ability to start to renegotiate with guys. Like, remember, you used to be able to say, like, hey, I guarantee you 30 catches next year.
Yeah.
I promise we'll win the conference championship. And I loved that worked on a lot of people's like, conference championship, count me in, coach.
I could be a MAC champion? Yeah.
That is why I came to Ohio, okay?
That's why I came to Ohio State. This is realignment in my mind.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
To win the MAC.
By the time we get to the new game, who knows where Ohio State will be. So I think that's a great place to start, is that end screen, no one opts out before the end of the season. No one really does anyway. And then you finish the conference championship week, whatever that is. Then you're getting ready for the playoff or the bowl game itself. Boom, the screen comes up, says, this is who's going to come back. This is who's graduate. You don't even have to put the graduating. I'll figure that out later. You just tell me the opt-outs and the reason they're opting out, transfer, or those who are transfer, NFL, or another reason, then let me start negotiating from there.
So I like the idea here. So let's sort of marry these things, right? The negotiations and the NIL stuff. Mm-hmm. I do like the idea of, you can't just say, hey, go meet with the collective. Like, that's too easy. You have to pick out.
That would be great. Go down the hall.
Yeah. No. You have to pick out the member of the collective that your guy should have a conversation with. Like, maybe you have a booster with really deep pockets that really loves the program and would be happy to do anything to keep you. I'll use Miami as the example since they're our background this week. Do anything to keep you at Miami, but maybe this guy has a reputation for saying something a little too racist when he gets a little too comfortable. And so that's the game you got to play. Like, do you find the right person to pitch the right kid? Does that make sense?
It does, because it makes a little bit more of a puzzle piece to try to get that together.
Right, and see, that's a great way to describe what I think got taken away from us with recruiting, and now NIL portal opt-outs. Like, is a great place to put it back in. Is the problem-solving nature of that process in the older versions of the game.
Oh, it got way too boilerplate the last versions of the video game. I just didn't like, hey, I'm 350 points behind in recruiting. All right, let me offer 600 points this week. Like, I don't know. I mean, that to me is that made recruiting boring to me by comparison to what we did have.
Yeah, I mean, I think was made for the people that really love playing the game, which is fine. I enjoyed playing the game too. But for those of us that had no problem investing an hour and a half to advance a week, that took some of the fun out of it.
Oh, it 100% did. So we're to the point where they're opting out or deciding to transfer. Now you're dealing with either the collective, or maybe the collective isn't the issue. Maybe financially it's an issue. Now maybe that's when you get to promise you'll graduate. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what most of these people are curious about. They're worried, hey, if I transfer, I'll finally graduate from somewhere because I haven't been going to class here, perhaps. I think there are several different options you can go with it if it isn't even just the collective. And
by the way, I do love that then implies that one of the things you would have to do is, like, for a kid going up their senior year and they're like, listen, I'm going to transfer into Duke, get that degree with the Duke name and emblem on it. Like, that means something. I do like that raises the possibility that you then would have to argue that, no, Middle Tennessee State is just as prestigious a university as Duke. Stay here, get your degree, be a Blue Raider for life.
Well, let me tell you this. There's another side of this transfer report that I want to talk about, which is the receiving of those transfers and trying to recruit them.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, where you go into like a different pool of like a database where you can say, hey, I need a quarterback, and you go look. But here's where I think we get back to talking about what you're referencing with the puzzle pieces here and the problem solving aspect. I think it was this offseason is still, I guess, currently kind of sort of happening. I think Devin Leary.
We haven't even gotten to this offseason yet.
I mean, we're like, we just had the national championship, so we're kind of there, and
Oh,
transfer portal stuff's
that's
been
right.
happening.
We just
So,
had the national championship.
so like we're right. So I remember Devin Leary. Was it
Yes.
Devin Leary or Grayson McCall? I think it was Devin Leary, who was a little interested in Auburn, for example. But I think the story was like Auburn didn't offer his major.
No, that was McCall.
That was Grayson McCall.
Yeah,
Okay.
Devin Leary was pretty much like telegraphed to Kentucky from day one.
Yeah, well, I knew that you're saying the right thing, so I'm gonna let you have that. Listen, transfer portal news is a blur. I'm just trying to remember bits of it, but I think you're right.
And frankly, the majority of it is like, yeah, I don't fucking know. Like, I might have heard this. I might have made this up in my head. This might have been from a message board.
I can't even tell you who. I just saw this a couple of weeks ago where a guy got to the transfer portal and then like tweeted or Instagram stuff like, "Hey, so can I come back?" So it's like,
well, I mean, look, that's what Grayson McCall did.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, he didn't have to tweet it. Could I come back? Fair. Like he just came back.
Fair.
Coastal's like, sure, yeah, why not? You're like the only quarterback ever here, so,
right?
As far as people are concerned. So, okay, so there was an issue with his major, like he couldn't get that major. So I think that should still be an issue, right?
I do like the things that the problems that the portal presents that just
little problems, but are big problems.
Yeah. No, I agree. And listen, I think let's use a real life example here of something that would be a very fun puzzle piece to be dealing with. Do you know the deal with Jake Spavital at Texas State and his relationship with Texas high school coaches?
I know some of it. You want to go deeper than maybe I know?
I mean, I'm just going to say what you know is like there was it the 2020 recruiting class? He took 2 high school players and everybody else was a transfer. And Texas high school football coaches were like, what the fuck? You can't really do that, especially not in Texas, where we can make or break you. And they broke it, right? Like, so I do think that it will be interesting to see if they bring back the concept of pipeline states. How do those sorts of things get affected by your work within the portal? How do relationships with individual recruits get affected when you go into the portal and grab a guy? I was just reading an article today about what would and would not make sense for Alabama to be doing in the portal. And, one of the questions that Alabama fans have been asking is, do you go get an established stud quarterback? And the guy that wrote the article was making the point of you have to be comfortable losing Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson, and you have to have a plan if you lose these 2 recruits they have. And so that's one of those things, right? That is a message to everybody else on the roster.
There should be a domino effect.
Right, exactly. So every portal decision should have some sort of domino effect. That's a perfect term for it. Whether that means guys transfer, whether that means they are unhappy, whatever the case may be, it should have some sort of domino effect.
Yeah. Whether you get a message, hey, coach, our backup quarterback just tweeted something pretty inflammatory.
Right, exactly.
So you're like,
I mean, that's the other part of this too, right? Like social media was, I'm not going to pretend that like 2013, we did not have social media. We certainly did, but
like Twitter was like 4 years old for most people.
Twitter wasn't what Twitter is now. Yeah. There was no TikTok, there was no Instagram, or at least Instagram was not a power player. There are all sorts of different things. I think that what is essentially a role-playing game within a sports game should have to take into consideration to deal with.
Oh, sure, yeah. Like if the wind can affect the kick, why can't you transferring someone who's going to start for you affect the presumptive starter's decision on whether or not to stay?
Arky, oh man, this might have to be a whole episode, but should there be a mode where you design a recruiting visit, including a photo shoot?
I have really strong feelings about photo shoots and students. Not even students, just recruits. I
had strong feelings about photo shoots and Brian Kelly.
I cannot stand recruits coming in and putting on the jersey before they're actually playing for the team.
Oh, sure. Look at you.
I cannot fathom.
Not in my goddamn jersey. You didn't earn it.
Listen, I didn't earn anything. I didn't play at any of these universities. I'm some would say I'm barely a fan.
Right.
But
we let you put on the orange and blue and you commit to Tennessee, you piece of shit.
well, listen, that's a big deal to go from Florida to Tennessee. You understand me?
Right. That honestly, that was exactly what I was referencing.
I think there's nothing above my shoulders that would indicate otherwise. So.
Arky, this will probably not speak very highly of me. I totally forgot that was over your shoulder.
That's okay. Eyeballs are for the living,
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
How do you make love to a woman? I'm happy to tell you, Arky.
Could you draw it for me? I'd prefer that. I like pictures. Should we have, and I've debated in my head whether or not this should exist, mainly because I think it would just take so much longer for the game to come out. So do I even want to bother with it?
Okay.
But should there be two versions of this kind of stuff? Should there be a simple recruiting version and a super excitable, in-depth version that we like? That way, those who don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of NIL and opt-outs and figuring out why people are transferring, should you get the transfers, how much does that affect your recruiting budget after the transfers themselves, so on and so forth. And by the way, not all the transfers are supposed to work out. You
right.
can't just go get like an 89 and it can't work out every time. Like
look,
I don't like that.
I think you are talking about a different take on the same thing that I've been arguing for, which is an AD mode. I mean, this is a different take in the sense that you are not dealing with budgets and stuff like that, right? But there is which side do you want to sacrifice? Do you want to sacrifice the gameplay and go the full-on recruiting game, or do you want to sacrifice the recruiting a bit puts the emphasis on the gameplay? Now, I understand in your mind the idea is that you could devote hours to recruiting and not see the whole thing and also have to play the games. I get it. But I think the realistic version of this is what kind of coach do you want to be? What sort of D&D path are you taking?
Well, I assume with the AD mode, you're hands off when it comes to the game completely. That's what you've been talking about, right?
Right.
So with the sort of being more in depth, like it's technically you're doing what a lot of coaches in recruiting do anyway, right? You're talking to players, you're having to recruit them, then you're having to coach them, so to speak. I don't even know. Demetri, are you one of those guys that practices that week? Like, do you go to... Yeah, I'm not one of those guys either. But there are people that do, and I think it's hilarious. That you don't have to do 2 hours a day, 4 days a week.
Oh, don't you, Arky?
You don't have to go to a film
session.
You
don't if you don't want to be an All-American.
Hey, can we get a film session? Can I get advanced copies of what Vanderbilt's doing this week? It's sort of actually, because I don't think that's a terrible idea, by the way. Like if they send 10 plays to you and you're like, okay, at some point this is going to show up in the game itself. That may be a whole nother episode. Let's table that. Let's table that because I'm actually
into the game.
My pants are getting a little tight thinking about it. Okay, I like that idea. All right, let's move forward.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, but I think with the coaching version, I do think that's an all-encompassing version.
Sure.
So you're doing all of it and the playing itself. And the AD version seems like it's more the hands off. Let me ask you one quick question. I reached over like I was about to touch your knee, like, hey, get your attention. Like, hey, buddy, listen.
Please do.
Let me ask you this. Going back to the opt-outs real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that if you have a player opt out, especially if they're going to the draft,
okay,
it should significantly hurt your next game? It'd be more if it was a quarterback or if it was maybe a left tackle or a running back or something like that. But opt-out should significantly affect the game itself if it's an important position. Like if it's a guard, I can understand being a little less, but all of it should affect you if they're good enough to be high draft picks.
Arky, I would argue that this is where practice would make a difference.
Okay.
I think if your quarterback is opted out to go and prepare for the draft and you and the, Kent State Golden Flashes are busy getting ready to take on South Alabama in the Camellia Bowl, it might not hurt to spend X number of, let's say, practices before the game, getting your backup in rhythm with your receivers. Because that's the thing that I would like to see kind of shaky. Not like suddenly, you lose a quarterback who's a 75 and you have to play a quarterback who's a 70, and then how do you account for those 5 points? No, I want to see the realistic effects of these receivers don't know this quarterback's timing the way they do the other quarterback's timing.
Yeah, so in that case, like normally the route you would throw, right? Whatever, you're still timing it the same way, but in the route running of itself, maybe it's a little slower, or the guy turns
Right.
around a little faster,
Right.
or something to that degree where it shows that there is a difference in timing and rhythm because you haven't had that. I could get on board with that artificial intelligence. By the way, if you're one of those folks that likes to actually practice before game week at all, please comment and let me know.
Tell us why.
I would love. I need people in my life to make fun of, and I'd like to add you to the list.
Yeah,
like I just maybe even send me some video of it so I can delete it immediately. I'd like that too.
There are specific positions where an opt out I think should require a little bit of practice time. Another one would be running back, right? Like,
you mean actually require the practice time?
I think that you should have to do like X number of practices, not like hours, but I mean like you should have to do X number of drills with your guy to make sure he is ready.
So if, let's just say your running back opts out and you can't get him to stay, before you can go to that game, you have to go to 3 practices of like 10 plays or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That is stupid. I actually love it. I mean, I love it. I kind of love it a little bit. Man, we're making this game so good. We're making this game so good.
EA, just, you know what? Don't even bring us in. Just cut us a check. Just cut us a check and we'll shut up. We'll only tell you our ideas.
Okay. So we've gotten to the opt-outs and their effect. The transfers and stuff. Now, how do we, and this is how we can sort of wrap this up, how do we then morph that going forward into recruiting? Meaning, with the transfers itself, whether it's the money you spent trying to induce them, or whether it's the number of position spots you clearly take from them, how do we then push that forward into the remaining recruiting cycle we go? Because presumptively you're recruiting 25 players, right, for the next year at least,
right?
That you're hoping to get on scholarship. But for every transfer you get, you're losing spots. And for every NIL deal you give to someone else, you're taking away from the pot of people who have not committed yet.
Right. Also, I think that anytime you land a transfer commitment, I don't think it absolutely means your incoming high school player decommits, but it should, like, you should have to do a little bit of maintenance there.
At that respective position, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think so. Like, it would be great then to see, like, the next screen, like your top quarterback with like a big red football face. Like, that's right. Dude, what?
Yep.
Yep. You've been recruiting me for 7 months in reality. So what is this? Oh no, it's good. It's good. He's just, he's got a penchant for breaking his ankle. So we're not sure.
Right. How are we to know? There is also, I think, I think there should be some sort of, there's got to be some way of balancing. You have a reputation for getting the top recruits, turning them out, developing. Once you get to that point in your dynasty where it's just like you could sim every game and you're winning a national championship. We've all gotten to that point of a dynasty before, right? There should be a certain level of pickiness that however boosters manifest themselves as NIL collectives, as emails, as whatever, demand of who you're taking out of the transfer portal. And if you take somebody that either does not pan out or immediately elicits like, that guy is not Washington State material sort of emails to you, you lose a little bit of confidence until, this kid proves himself in whatever way.
That kid, that ain't a Pullman kid, I'll tell you that.
That's right. He's not tough enough to live on the Palouse.
He is not. You understand that 100%. I'd like to hire you.
Yes.
You get it. You see what I'm looking at. What if we were to limit the number of transfers you could get early on, perhaps in your tenure somewhere? Do you think it should be unlimited?
I think
essentially, like, you could be a 0-star program and a 0-star coach when you first get there as the head coach. And theoretically, you could get a handful of decent transfers and be a really good team. A lot like what TCU did, right? Like TCU
Arky,
became.
isn't that Colorado's model for next year?
Well, we don't know how that's worked out yet, right?
That's
We know
fair.
it worked out for TCU, right?
Yeah.
TCU was really good this year. So I don't know. I don't know. Like I love putting in sort of calibrators and restrictor plates for people trying to be really good really quick.
Well, Arky, I think that those things, those sort of calibrators would show their head as you keep doing this, right? Like, again, I'll go back to the Texas State model in real life. Like, there were real world consequences for that.
You want a Jake Spavital feature.
I just want Jake Spavital as the cover guy on this game.
He's not impossible, by the way. I have on very good authority. He's in the top 20 of consideration.
Do you know what his new job is?
I hope it's like the director of high school recruiting somewhere.
No, no, that'd be wonderful. Offensive coordinator at Cal next year.
Oh, Cal. Justin Wilcox still there?
Justin Wilcox is still there.
He's doing pretty well there for the most part. Defensively,
I was about to say,
really
the author of the 12-9 Cheez-It Bowl a few years ago.
Man, if we can get more of those, huh? Right? 12-9 do not hurt. Actually, they do. They actually do. They hurt a lot. But here's just the rule, okay? The rule should always be, and this is off the topic just a little bit because we're wrapping up. No field goals in bowl games. Just
Arky.
No field goals, no extra points either. Just
all safeties.
There's no real reason to have them. Okay, you're not helping draft stock of a kicker. Worst thing you can do is hurt a kicker, and there's only 1.5 of those drafted every 17 years.
Right.
So essentially, let's just try to make the dude score. Now, that almost didn't happen in the Kentucky Iowa game this year. They tried not to have anybody play or score in that game. But, you can have some pick sixes like they did in that game. I'm just saying kickers are only important because we give them importance. So let's take it away just for bowl games.
Arky,
and I'll say take it away from the playoffs too. Doesn't matter.
All right, Arky, put this little feather in the cap for a future episode. Because you mentioning Iowa and Kentucky made the little mouse on the gears in my brain start running. There has to be some sort of, however it is we go about assigning teams to bowl games in the next version of the video game. I would love some sort of like, there's the ReliaQuest Bowl, or no, what game do they play? Music City. There's the Music City Bowl chairman going, gosh, remember when Coach Arky came last time? Half of his team opted out. We're going to pass on Arky State.
I swear this happened, and I cannot. I've looked for hours to find. I swear on everything that this happened one year. That one year on the 4-letter network, ESPN, they had a bowl invitation show where the directors of the bowls would go on the television and invite certain teams. Now, they probably knew that they were going to come.
Right.
Like whoever was in charge of the Valero Alamo Bowl was like, we would like to invite Oregon to the Alamo Bowl. And
I remember one year they did a bowl selection show where they were announcing who went to the bowls. And one of the things that derailed it is one of their own reporters was tipping the announcements before the announcements were made.
You know what I think is the most bizarre thing of all of this now? Is that even though you have all these bowl games, right, and they're technically slotted like, SEC versus ACC, and sometimes it's like SEC's 4 versus ACC's 5. Like, you're going deep into the evening after they've announced the semifinals of the bowl game, of the national championship semifinals, where you're still negotiating bowls.
Yeah, because it's the SEC, the ACC. So for a long time, the ACC just let their bowl partners pick the teams. Like they would tell you, like, ideally this is who we would like to have. But remember those 2 years that Boston College won the Atlantic. Nobody wanted to take Boston College for a bowl game because they couldn't even get teams. They couldn't even get fans to the championship game.
Yeah.
And so I want to say, like, there was a year where Boston College won 10 games and ended up playing like in the Mayo Bowl or whatever the Duke's Mayo Bowl was before it was a Duke's Mayo Bowl because nobody else would take them.
Was that the Meineke Car Care Bowl?
I believe that is correct.
Or
I think
did it predate the car?
No. I think it was first the Car Care Bowl, then the Belk Bowl, then the Mayo Bowl, right? That sounds right.
That sounds...
wait, you're right. It did have a different Car Care name before it was Meineke.
CarQuest?
That sounds right.
I feel like I'm just giving advertising to people who don't care. CarQuest is like, wow, we got mentioned on a game about a video game about college football. Sweet. Okay. All right. I think I messed the whole lineup.
Let's see.
All right.
Duke's
That's
Mayo Bowl used to be the Continental Tire Bowl.
Oh, man. I got a set of Continental tires.
Look at you. All right. Don't brag.
I don't know. I don't know what any of my tires are, to be honest.
I love that you confidently said, oh, that reminds me. And then you realized, oh, no, wait, I'm lying.
Do you know the tires you have?
They're black ones.
Don't got any white walls on those zombies?
No, they definitely do not have white walls.
Okay, well then you could have been cool until then.
Arky, I drive a Toyota Prius, though I could not have.
Oh, you drive a Prius. Interesting.
I do.
Interesting. Well, we'll take that car when we go meet Paul Feinbaum.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, we'll put some white walls on before we go.
Oh, good. He'll think we're cool.
All right, that's going to do it for us this week. A great comeback episode. It's time to put it in the can, and we'll get ready for next week. So, Demetri, say goodbye to the good people.
Save and sip to next week, everybody. I almost forgot my goodbye line. It's been a while.